Welcome again to Home Sweet Natural Home. Today I want to talk to you about pregnancy, and I just want to give my experience as far as the different births that I had. I had my first birth in a hospital with my daughter, and my second birth was at a birth center. So I just want to talk about the experiences that I had with each. Now, when I decided to have my daughter at a hospital, I had an obstetrician and she was very supportive of my choices. She took time to speak with me and answer all of my questions and made things so much easier, especially since it was my first pregnancy. She made me feel like I had options when it came to having ultrasounds and also other certain tests. Now, when I went into labor, the nurses were also really supportive. Although my labor was long and painful, there were no complications. My water broke on its own and I was able to have a normal delivery. Overall, I had a great hospital experience. There were a few issues that came up that I will share with you. One of which was the doctors kept trying to pressure me every half hour or so to have an epidural. I had made it very clear that I wanted to have a natural birth. I had outlined this in my birth plan, but every moment or so, I would have either a nurse or a doctor come in and try to convince me to have some type of pain relief. Now, another issue was that my obstetrician was not there when I was in labor. It was an on-call doctor that delivered my baby. I had never met her, and she came in when I was about to push and basically just watched me give birth. She barely spoke with me, and I also needed sutures. And I was under the impression that the doctor was going to do it, but it ended up being a student doctor who did it without my knowledge. The doctor was guiding her, but after giving birth and with all the commotion in the room, it wasn't until she was done that I realized what had happened. Another issue that I had was one of the nurses tried to give me Pitocin without my consent. I had an IV in my arm, and after I had given birth, she had taken my arm and started to insert the needle. And I immediately pulled my arm away and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm trying to give you Pitocin so that you don't hemorrhage." And I had told her before I did not want any medication. And the fact that I had already made this decision and she was still trying to put it in my arm without my consent was a little upsetting, but it was resolved. Now, the other issue in the hospital was also a lack of privacy. When I gave birth to my daughter, it was on a Saturday night and the hospital was not very busy, so I had a lot of time to bond with my baby, to nurse, and just to have rest. But the next day on Sunday, there were so many doctors coming in and out of the room, so many nurses checking my vitals, checking my daughter. And although those things are helpful, it did not allow me to get the rest that I really needed. All in all, even with those incidents, I still had a great experience. I didn't have any complications. The nurses were absolutely amazing, and I had an amazing blessing, which was a newborn baby. Now, when I was pregnant with my second child, I had decided to have my son at a hospital as well. Unfortunately, this experience was not the same as with my first. The obstetrician that I had was not supportive of any of the choices that I wanted to make. She was not supportive of me having a natural birth, and she was telling me that in order for her to be my obstetrician, there was a certain level of maternal care that she had to provide, which included several ultrasounds, which was not necessary because I was not considered high risk. But I felt as though I did not have a say in what I could or could not do. And I did not feel comfortable with her as my doctor, so I decided to go and look for a birth center. And I'm so glad that I did because the experience was absolutely amazing. I found a midwife who was so supportive of everything that I wanted to do. She answered all my questions, and although my doctor with my previous pregnancy had done so as well, I felt as though my midwife was more of a friend. And anytime I would call her, she would call me right back, or if I had questions, I would text her, she would text me right back. There were even times where I had concerns and she would have me come in the same day. I felt like I was in a home-like environment. And when I was ready to give birth, I went to the birth center. I had a very quiet experience. It was just my husband and my midwife would only come in if I called her. So everything that I had outlined in my birth plan, I was able to get. And after having my baby, It was very quiet. There were no complications or interruptions, and so I was really grateful for the experience. Another issue that I had though while I was laboring was that my son, although he was head down, he was not facing the correct position. In some cases that could be an emergency, but my midwife had the knowledge on what to do and what positions to get in and how to sit on the birthing ball so that my son was able to move his head into the correct position. After giving birth, I was able to leave within 4 hours and go home into my warm, comfortable bed and rest with no interruptions. And an amazing thing about my midwife is she had a wealth of knowledge when it came to resources, and she connected me with an amazing lactation consultant, which had it not been for her, I may have given up when it came to breastfeeding because I was having so many issues. So I'm so grateful for this experience, but make sure you interview the doctor or the midwife that you're choosing. Don't feel like you have to go to one particular person. Make sure that you feel comfortable with them, ask as many questions as you want, and you want to make sure that they are supportive of what you want, because again, this is your birth, this is your baby. Now, feel free to research online, read reviews, do whatever you can. And again, if you don't feel comfortable with one person, try going to another. I pray that this video has been a blessing to you. If it has, please share it with others. And if you have any questions, feel free to visit our website at www.homesweetnaturalhome.com. Also, like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching.